The PlayStation Store continues to run its games under $15 sale as well as its Planet of the Discount sale, and in this video I want to take a look at some games that are under the price of $10. Now, I'm not going to be repeating any of those games that I mentioned on the RPG video, so if you want to get some deals on RPGs, you can check that out. Games like Dragon's Dogma, Dark Arisen, and Dragon Age Inquisition both fall under that $10 threshold, but they won't be mentioned in this video. So with that being said, let's get right into it, and let's start things off with Yakuza 0, which is 75% off for $4.99. I should also note that Yakuza 6, The Song of Life, is 75% off for $4.99. Now, obviously, if you're getting into the franchise, I highly recommend to start with Yakuza 0, but if you want to jump right into Yakuza 6, or if you've already played a bunch of the games, that's an option as well, and I believe that is a new low price for Yakuza 6, so definitely worth mentioning there. Yakuza is just an over-the-top action title with a pretty good story, and then also a ton of content, and there's a variety of content in there as well, and sometimes it does take a more humorous route at times, but at the same time you also have a mature story in there, so definitely a game worthwhile to check out. The only complaint that you can have is that there's no English dub, which is a little bit of a bummer, but definitely still a game that is a strong recommendation from me, especially at this $5 price point. Next up, we have Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, which is 50% off for $9.99. I know these days the attention's on the Resident Evil 2 remake or Resident Evil Village. There's been a lot of high-quality Resident Evil releases in recent memory, but don't forget about Resident Evil 7. This really brought the franchise back to the forefront, and a lot of people really look at this game as kind of a revival of the franchise in a lot of sense, because Resident Evil 6 was not very good. I mean, some people thought it was okay, I thought it was pretty terrible, but Resident Evil 7, on the other hand, let's talk about that, is a great game, very much sticks to those horror chops that you know and love from Resident Evil, and I have to say, if you have a VR headset, highly recommend to play this with VR. At least try it out, because it is a terrifying experience in VR, and I highly recommend you to give it a go with that element of the game as well. The game itself isn't all too lengthy, but definitely still one that is very much a worthwhile playthrough. $9.99 is a great buy as well. Next up, we have Dreams, 50% off for $9.99. I often recommend this when it goes down to this price. This is one of the best steals that the PlayStation Store has, frequently. This deal is available relatively frequently, like every couple of months you'll see it for $9.99, and I have to say, Media Molecule is giving you such a great game at this price. Obviously, this game is centered around its creation suite. However, you don't even have to be into that. You could just play other people's creations. You could just chill out and try a lot of the experiences. For $9.99, you're getting a game with a ton of longevity attached to it, and not only that, Media Molecule has been pretty upfront about the fact that they're going to remain committed to this game and consistently update it, and they've done that at this point, so $9.99 for it is just such a great buy. There is a free trial version if you want to check that out, so try that, and then if it does win you over, drop the $10 and pick it up for yourself. Next up, we have Shadow of the Colossus for $9.99. Now, this is a remake of the PS2 game done by Bluepoint. Should be noted, this was a PlayStation Plus title in the past, so check your library, you might already own it. Sometimes that's what happens with Plus games, they just kind of get lost in the shuffle in your library. Nevertheless, if you don't have it, obviously this is a really good buy. I remember playing SOTC back on the PlayStation 2, and that game was so ahead of its time. Like, it was pushing the PlayStation 2 to its limits, and with that came some performance issues, but obviously this remake on the PlayStation 4 really alleviates a lot of those issues, and the game looks fantastic being built up on the PS4. This is a complete remake. It's not a remaster or anything like that. SOTC got a remaster on the PlayStation 3. This is a full-on remake, and it looks fantastic. It's one of those games that at this point is super iconic, and the majority of people know about it, but it is also a bunch of years old if we're talking about the PlayStation 2 version. This version, I believe, came out back in 2017, but definitely give that a buy. $9.99 is a good pickup on that. Next up, Rise of the Tomb Raider 20-year celebration, 80% off for $5.99. I often talk highly about Rise of the Tomb Raider. I think it's a fantastic game, and probably my favorite Tomb Raider game ever. I mean, I've really dug Tomb Raider since the 2013 reboot, and I thought Rise of the Tomb Raider was just a tremendous game. Obviously started out as an Xbox One exclusive, then came to other platforms, and this version does have some additional content, being the 20-year celebration. There's even some VR components to it, but nevertheless, Rise of the Tomb Raider is just a great game, and I think from a narrative standpoint, it's stronger than Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and from a gameplay standpoint, it's stronger than Tomb Raider 2013, so it kind of has the best of both worlds here, and Rise of the Tomb Raider for $6 is a great buy. It's not the lengthiest game in the world, you can beat it rather quickly, but if you want a game to really play through over a weekend, this is a good one for $6. Sometimes we don't want all of our games to be, you know, the north of 100-hour experiences, and ROTR definitely fits that bill. Next up, kind of sticking with the same theme, how about Uncharted: The Nathan Drake Collection, which is $7.99 if you are a Plus subscriber. Obviously, Tomb Raider and Uncharted often see their comparisons. Uncharted: The Nathan Drake Collection includes Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 without the multiplayer components of Uncharted 2 and 3, of course. Uncharted 1 definitely shows its age. Like, go back and play Uncharted 1, and I did a few years ago. And yeah, that game does not hold up that well, but it's still a decent game and it's a fun playthrough. Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3, I still think are tremendous. I know they do show their age to an extent as well, but Uncharted 2, man, that game holds up so well and really is one of my favorite Naughty Dog games that they ever released. Like, I picked up Uncharted 2 day one on the PlayStation 3. I believe it was like October 13th, 2009, and yeah, that game was tremendous back then, but it still, again, holds up pretty well today, and the pacing in Uncharted 2 is so good, like top-notch pacing. Uncharted 3 is very good as well. I liked Uncharted 2 better, but they're both really good games, and Uncharted 1 well worth your time as well. So $8 for that, pretty good. And next up, we have Burnout Paradise Remastered, which is $5.99 for PlayStation Plus subscribers. I love Burnout Paradise. If you want an arcade racer with a lot of high-octane moments, a lot of collision crashes, I mean, Burnout is your game. And Burnout Paradise also has a pretty great soundtrack. I was happy that they were able to keep that intact with this remastered version. You've got a lot of alternative rock songs, which are right up my alley, like My Curse from Killswitch Engage. Like, there's a lot of good songs, and as I mentioned in the previous video, the band that did the theme song for Dragon's Dogma has a song in this game as well called Friction. Highly recommend you to listen to that as well. Friction's a great song. And really, the music goes with Burnout, and I know I'm speaking a lot about the music, but I think the music selection is great in Burnout Paradise. Nevertheless, the game also has a ton of content, and it's just a game that you can unwind and have a lot of fun. It's not a game that you're going to get emotionally invested into the narrative or anything like that. You just, you know, go around this open world and have a really good time. Unfortunately, this does show its age in areas as well, like some of the elements of how you restart a race are just kind of lame, but overall the positives definitely outweigh the negatives, and $6 for this is quite good. Next up, Assassin's Creed Rogue Remastered, $9.89 for this. This is 67% off. I often go to bat for AC Rogue. I think it's a great game. It came out back in 2014. On PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 initially, and the issue with that was, at that point, the PlayStation 3 was, or the PlayStation 4, excuse me, the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One were already out, and that same day that Rogue came out, AC Unity came out, so it was kind of like a conflict of interest. It was a little bit too much Assassin's Creed at once, and Rogue kind of fell under the radar, even though Rogue was by far the better game. This is very reminiscent of Assassin's Creed 4 with a lot of aspects. Not as good as AC4, but still very good. The story is quite compelling. One of the better main characters out of all of the Assassin's Creed games, so $9.89 for this, I think, is definitely worth your time and money. Next up, we have Alien Isolation The Collection, which is $7.99. I always like to recommend Alien Isolation The Collection. This is the ideal version of the game to get. If you have to pick up the base game, usually that's like $6, but the collection includes some additional content, and this was, to me, alongside a couple of other titles, one of the first truly great games in that 2014 time period when when the PS4 just first came out. It was like year one. It was like this, Shadow of Mordor, Dragon Age Inquisition. Those were kind of like the highlight games. And Alien Isolation is a great survival horror title. It's relatively lengthy as well, so I thought that was quite good. If you want a horror game, $8 for this is pretty darn good. Next up, and lastly, we have Metro Redux, which is 85% off for $4.49. I mean, this is the easiest recommendation in the world. Metro 2033 and Last Light are tremendous first-person shooters. Incredible atmospheres here, incredible storytelling and voice acting as well. Gameplay is solid, and visually they still look really, really good. And Metro Last Light obviously had its issues on the PlayStation 3, so on the PlayStation 4, this is the ideal version of the game. Two quality first-person shooters, single-player first-person shooters, definitely worth your money, especially at just $4.49. That ends up being like, what, $2 and change for each of those games, $2.24 a pop. That is a pretty ridiculous deal. But that's going to wrap up this one. Again, with both those sales, a lot of great deals are running right now. We honestly might do another video covering this sale just because there's so much stuff. Even under the games under $10, there's a lot of stuff I had to skip. Like AC4 is on sale as well. But that's going to wrap up this one. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.